Alright tubes, you guys part 2 of our compressor video. I'm going to finish up all the electronics today. The only thing we're not going to have today is a tank. I'm going to have all the electronics inside wired up and the compressor will be able to run and all that. It'll be mounted. The only thing we'll have to do is hook up a tank to the hose. That'll be it. So what I'm doing right now is I'm under the hood. I figured I'd show you where it all starts at the battery. And I went to AutoZone and I got another one of these fuse holders. These things are pretty good. I like these. And they just hold a standard automotive fuse. The only mistake I made is I got this one here, which is for the compressor. It takes the mini fuses, and then this yellow one here, which this one goes over to my relay for my air horns. That one takes a bigger size fuse, but that's not a big deal. But I just thought I'd point that out. You might want to standardize these. In fact, with the Ranger, I'd go with the smaller ones because that's what size fuses the Ranger takes. But either way, that runs underneath. And that goes around and up next to the fender and under the truck, and that goes inside where I showed you guys before. I figured I'd show you how I'm going to put this switch in here and how I'm going to get power to the relay. What I have here is I have two things I made up here. Actually, one of them I bought, the other one I made. And I'll start with this here. And what this is, if you're not familiar with these, I got this at AutoZone as well. This is called an adder circuit, and what it does is you take one of these and you go over to your fuse box. And I already have one in here for my LEDs, which I also never made a video of. But either way, what you do is you find an existing circuit that you want to take power from. For example, my LEDs are off of the cigarette lighter circuit. And so you have two fuses in there, and one's for your adder circuit, whatever it is you're adding, and then the other one's for your whatever it is that you took the power from. So for example, that's a cigarette lighter. So you got two fuses in there. The one in the back closest to the fuse box, the yellow one, that's a 20 amp. That's for the cigarette lighter. And then the red one there, I think that's a 10 amp fuse, which is way more than I need. But that's just in case we have a short on the LED circuit. But either way, what's going to happen is the switch over here, which I just made up. I put some leads on it. That's going to go in our dash over here. If you take a look in the dash, you might remember this switch over here, which was for my audio input circuit. I'm going to put another switch over here, which is going to be on the opposite side of it, so it'll be symmetrical. So that one will control my power to the relay, which will in turn turn on the compressor. So one lead of this switch here will go to the adder circuit, and then the other lead will go to this wire here. Now this wire here, this runs all the way along my truck, and that goes around behind the seat, and then that comes out right at the compressor. But I'll show you that later. Alright, I guess it's time for an update here. We got the switch installed now. Everything's all tucked away, and now it kind of looks like there's supposed to be switches there because you got the one on each side. The only problem is this one, the compressor switch, didn't come with the on-off indicator like the radio switch on the right-hand side did. But that's okay. I'm just happy that I have a switch there, and now they kind of look like they belong there. So if you take a look over here, we have our wires coming out from under the dash. Those are from the switch, and as I said before, the one's connected to the adder circuit, and then the other one's connected to the back of the truck where the compressor's at. That's this one right here that runs along the truck. So all we have to do now is plug our adder circuit in up here into the fuse box. And in case you guys are interested, if you're watching this as a specific installation video on the Ranger, I'm going to be using fuse number 16. That's the wiper motor. And the reason I'm using that one is that it'll be a keyed ignition source. It'll only come on when I have the accessory on or I have the ignition on. No matter what the position of the switch is, even if I turn that switch on, it won't come on unless we have the ignition on as well. Okay, we had a change of plans here. Instead of using number 16, I decided to use number 29. And the reason being is that number 29, which is the radio, and it's also a keyed power source, it's out of the way. When I had it up at 16, you couldn't get the fuse panel on there quite tight enough. But if you put it down there at 29, put this thing on here, fix our weather stripping here, and that thing fits on there perfectly. You would never know that anything was modified in there. I'm sure some of you guys were a little bit worried about how much this compressor was going to vibrate when it was running. So I'll show you what I did. I went and got some vibration dampening mounts. And what these do is they have rubber in the middle, and then one side screws into the existing stud I had, and then the other side the compressor's bolted to. So I think that they're really going to help. I've got them all the way around on all four mounts. And then also what I'm going to do is I got some rubber grommets. You can see I got one right here I'm actually about to put in. And I'm going to put those, just for good measure, I'm going to put them on the 3 mounting holes for this plate. You can see I already got one in here. Alright, everything's just about squared away here now. I mounted the compressor, and what I did was I went up to Lowe's. They carried the right size bolts because the original ones were too short after I added that grommet. I believe they were metric 14 by 1.25 inches, but it wasn't hard to figure that out. I just went into Lowe's and brought the old bolt and figured it out. And the wiring, I pretty much showed you guys everything as it would be beforehand. So of course you got your relay there, and just to clarify, you've got your air line and the main power, which that's the one that goes to the battery. They go out behind the seat and then they travel underneath, which I showed in part 1. And I put my pressure gauge, or rather my pressure cutoff switch, right there. It's important to note that if you use the leader hose that comes with Viair, it's got a check valve in it, so you can't put that switch before the check valve, otherwise it may not work right. So that's just something to be aware of. But then everything else is wired as I had told you. We have our ground wire, which goes to a point underneath here. It's actually right under here, right back there. You can't see that. And then our other wire runs up to the front of the truck to our switch and all that, which I already showed you guys. So I'll put the cover back on here so you can see what it looks all buttoned up, and then I'll fire it up for you. Okay, so that's it all buttoned up there. And one thing I did have to do was, since I added those vibration damping mounts, I ran out of room for the leader hose, so I ended up taking out one of the cup holders. But I'm actually glad I did that, because that'll give it a little more ventilation, because otherwise that thing could overheat under there. But otherwise, you can't tell that there's a compressor back there, because all your air lines are really, they're pretty well hidden. I mean, if you turn on your lights and if you're looking for them, you're going to see them, but nobody cares about that. And then all you got to do is go up to your dash here and flip the switch. And it's not too loud. It's really, I mean, you got to keep in mind you got a compressor running inside your cab, and especially on a Ford Ranger, it's not a big area. But that thing will pump this tank. I actually set up a tank, just a temporary tank. I set that up in the bed here, and it'll fill that in probably about 5 minutes. Which is, I know it sounds slow, but you got to remember that it's not a huge compressor. But that's about it. So that's the end of the video here. And I hope you enjoyed and hope it was helpful. We'll see you, tubes.